Hello. This is the 188th Test from the Future, an experimental podcast from the year 2224, which we are sending from our present to yours. My name is Dirk.
And my name is Simon.
And we're putting the past in podcast. So, another day, another conversation with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep. From us in the year 2224.
And not just a conversation with each other, but it's a conversation about conversations.
Say what?
It's a conversation about conversations.
Now I got you. Yep. Meaning our topic for today. It will all make sense to our listeners.
Yes.
In a moment.
Those who read the title, if they can see the title,
might already make sense.
Those who haven't, we're talking about conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get there, I wanted to talk about the discussion we were having earlier today about the new law that's being considered.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it could be interesting to find out about this for our listeners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the law in question, so being proposed, is to make it illegal for people to use their lenses while walking around in the world.
Yes.
So you'll need to, I guess, stop to use it, or specifically maybe even have to be indoors to use them.
And the lenses is basically we use that to enhance what we see around us.
Right. For our listeners who don't know, exactly, it's an overlay on the world, yeah? An augmentation, a way of modifying or adding to what we see.
Exactly. And or they replace what we see, or they enhance it, or you can also switch them off. You still have them in your eye, but you're not using them.
Yeah.
I think they might have been the very first topic we spoke about. I think it might just have been the very first episode that reached the past. We explained what they were.
Could be. I can't remember at this point. It's been a few years.
So what do we think about this law?
I don't like it. So I don't like it for my own personal reasons. But also, there's been a trial run of this for a couple of months. So they wanted to see, okay, so it seems like a good idea is the justification. That people walking along using their lenses, they're so distracted by watching a TV show or reading messages from their friend or whatever that they don't pay attention to their surroundings and they bump into things.
Yeah, they bump into buildings, into each other.
Exactly.
Stumble over cats.
Into robots.
Yeah.
And so on. That's the justification. And I already knew that wouldn't quite work out. And then it was handy that this trial run proved it, which is, so of course some people do use their lens that way. And a whole bunch of other people rely on their lenses actually for making the world more easier to navigate.
Yeah.
And most relevantly, I think we've mentioned before, so what were roads in the past are now all overgrown with grass, because we don't have cars that roll along on wheels. It's very picturesque. It's really nice. It's a nice atmosphere.
It feels nice on your feet.
Exactly. The ground is very uneven. Curbs have kind of deteriorated and so on. And everyone, myself included, our lenses warn us basically, They'll project like a warning or show like a wireframe over uneven ground so that we can either avoid it or take care of it when walking over. Everyone's lenses being switched off in this trial run, so the point was in this town, no one's lenses are working when they're outside. For the experiment, they kept it simple. They only worked when you're inside, not when you're outside. A whole bunch of more people were tripping over, twisting their ankle, falling on their face.
The people are not used to it anymore.
Exactly. It's this default. It's like something, you're watching a film up in a corner of your vision. Yeah, that's pretty obvious what you're doing. But people kind of forgot about all these augmentations on the world that make it better to get around. Yeah.
And they're very practical. And at least in my case, they beep when I get too close to somebody. So, I don't like it either.
Nope.
But that's because I like to watch TV shows while walking.
And that is a good use of it, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's what if I'm walking anywhere, might as well use my time wisely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the law. We don't like it.
We don't like it, and it's still just in the proposal stage. So hopefully it won't actually pass.
I don't think so. Okay, but like we mentioned at the beginning, we have a conversation today about conversations.
Indeed, conversations with the afterlife.
Yes. Conversations with the afterlife, and this sounds. I wasn't sure if this is a happy or a sad topic, because it's kind of sad because you're talking about people who died,
right? People who you've not, who've left your life, who you can't spend time with anymore,
or people you've never actually met, but they're just not there anymore. But on the other hand, happy because you talk to them,
right?
So there's a bit of both included, I guess.
Yeah.
So half happy, half sad. But that's not really why we wanted to talk about it. It's just the fact that it's possible is pretty cool, I would say.
Definitely, yeah. And which way around should we talk about this? The way it's done now, or maybe the way it was done in the past?
Maybe we first explain how it was done in the past.
Yep. So in the past, actually it wasn't done.
Yes.
Is the point. It was simulated. It appeared like you were talking with your deceased friends, your deceased loved ones.
It seemed real.
Very convincing. And the way that was done was using large language models, a person's entire correspondence, all their messages, all their
everything that was ever recorded on the cams.
Exactly, everything about them was fed into the large language model, and then that resulted in something that you could interact with.
Yeah, some virtual, artificially intelligent kind of entity that you could speak with that really sounded like the person that...
Yeah, it was very convincing.
Yeah.
And so there was lots of upsides to that, especially since at that point it wasn't actually possible to speak to the afterlife.
Yeah.
And the downside was it used a huge amount of energy.
Yeah.
Ludicrous amounts of energy.
Yeah, and then that made it also really slow.
Yeah.
And expensive.
Yeah, exactly. You're rich enough, no worries, but it was so expensive that the majority of people couldn't afford to use it.
Exactly. And then at one point they said, actually, why don't we just talk to the afterlife straight away? That turned out to be a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, right. Once it was worked out, so the issue was working it out, of course, but once it was worked out, exactly, it uses much less energy, much simpler technologically.
Yeah. It also felt more real as far as I understood.
To the point, actually, you were for real conversing with the person rather than this simulation of them.
It's basically the conversation that we're having right now, right? I'm saying something and you react to that. If you would be a large language model, you would still react as you would have done.
Right, from your perspective, it would be correct.
Exactly, but I would still know it's not actually you reacting, just kind of like a prediction.
Exactly, and there was always a sadness to that, as the person speaking with the large language model version of the person you wanted to speak to.
Yeah.
In the moment, you could be convinced by it, and then there was a sadness, especially afterwards, when you understood, no, actually, I was effectively speaking with my memories.
And also, this is what Simon might have said, but you don't know for sure.
And what Simon would have said, what I would have said, without the input of the last however many years, decades, you know what I mean? Like without the new input.
Fair enough. True.
In that sense, I mean, a few months later, you wouldn't notice it, but as the years go by, really would be like speaking to a time capsule.
Yeah, it's true, actually. It's like how the rest of the world evolves, but your large language model, former relative, whatever, didn't evolve along with it.
Yeah.
Or,
doesn't have the input, basically. It hasn't been reading up on the news.
Yeah. So the new way, which is way cooler.
Yes.
There was a lot of research until they found out you could just connect to the afterlife wirelessly.
Yeah, exactly. And a whole lot of research went into, but so not into speaking with the afterlife, rather it was developing the next wireless protocol.
Yeah.
So now the current wireless protocol, so 66G.
Yeah.
Through the research into that to develop it for everyone to use had the happy side effect. Oh, by the way, this allows us to talk to the afterlife.
Yeah. Who are all these conversations we're suddenly picking up on?
Right.
It's the afterlife. Okay, a whole lot more people tuning in there. Yeah. I also thought initially I wanted to understand how this worked exactly.
Right.
But then somebody explained it to me. You don't really know how the wireless internet works. The radio waves.
Versions, yeah.
And it's like you and I sitting here in this room, we're surrounded by all kinds of wireless communication. This whole room is wireless.
Yep.
Most of it anyway. And there's radio waves and whatever connections. And then we don't see any of this. So, okay. Explained.
For our purposes anyway.
Exactly. Good enough for us. Yeah. And we could probably read a bunch of manuals or explanation sheets or whatever, but
that would be dry for our listeners, so instead we will skip over that.
Yeah, we'll skip. Just trust us, it works.
And so people who've died, we can now speak with them.
Yes, exactly.
Used to be a thing that you couldn't, or you could simulate it, but now you can get back in touch.
So one question I initially had when I first heard about this is is there a difference?
Or I guess you would have phrased it like, what is the difference? Yeah, you would have assumed there was a difference.
Yeah, exactly. It's because like, okay, they've died, and is that basically it?
Yep.
Turns out, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically it. So it's like, okay, they don't really have a physical body anymore, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so cleared up, I guess. Turns out, though, that the actual conversations aren't as easy as you might expect. There are some challenges with talking to the afterlife. Do you?
Sure. I mean, like you mean, for example, there being so much interference.
Yeah, that's
the
thing.
Like when you're speaking, of course, you can hear each other, but then often it will drop out, or there'll be like static, or
a bit of a crackling and so on. That's true, actually, and it's not something we're really used to, right? Because it's the 23rd century. We can do
exactly. We know
everything.
that this used to be a thing, like on old telephone lines or whatever. But exactly, our normal communications are crystal clear.
Yeah. And this is suddenly
It almost seems like an affectation, yeah, like to maintain an air of mystery. That like in the middle of a conversation, it will like drop out, and then it will come back, and you've missed the important part of the conversation. You say, "Hey, what did you say?" And they'll repeat it, but then it will drop out again.
At the important point. You reckon it's on purpose?
I mean, whether by the people on the other end or whoever's maintaining the network. It's tricky to say.
I mean, it's also you're talking to the afterlife, right? So maybe if it was crystal clear, you started doubting it like before with the large language models.
Right,
okay,
right.
This is just another large language model. I'm just told it is the
or just an actor pretending. Although, I mean, when they know things that only they could know, you probably don't think it's that.
But with all the static and the crackling and the dropouts, it sounds legit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but it's what I also understood is that the translation mechanism doesn't really work properly.
Sure, that's the Orjones, yeah?
Yeah.
They work, as we are talking now, they work, of course, and they work in your daily life. And because of all that interference, has a hard time keeping up sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, okay, if the person who you're speaking with, if you both spoke the same language anyway, it's not a problem. I think we've mentioned before, though, a lot of people, myself included, because we have the Orjones available to us all the time, sometimes you don't really realize it, but actually you've been speaking with your best friend in a different language for years. But, you're always able to understand each other through the Orjones.
Exactly.
But okay, then, your friend or someone dies, you speak with them through 66G. And actually, oh, by the way, I guess we need to learn each other's language now.
True. Yeah. I at least know it that when they speak, that it's not translated. You reckon it's also the other way around? I guess so, huh?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, we both speak English now, but
yeah.
Normally I speak Dutch and you automatically understand what I'm talking about. We're just doing this for the recording.
Of course.
And then for the afterlife, I mean, I'm also, I think maybe from our conversation, I've never actually done it. So I'm just going on what I've been reading and what I've been told.
66G, it's a bit of a hard one to say. Just launched a few months ago.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So it is a relatively new thing. The large language model versions were what everyone was using until very recently.
Yeah, so this is even new stuff for the 23rd century. Yeah, that's true. And 66G came with a couple of other cool features, but this was the one that basically caught the media attention, and of course it's very popular at the moment.
Yeah, like everyone's, all the lens manufacturers are like scrambling. I mean, the main ones have it by now, and there are apps that you can use to take advantage of the 66G network to speak with the afterlife. Yeah. But there's still a lot of room for growth there. Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, maybe it also will get rid of the static when they get to 67G if they ever get there. Maybe. But yes, interesting that here among the living, everybody said, "This is awesome. I'm going to connect to," and then list a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Celebrities that died or
family members.
Exactly. And it turns out we're really enthusiastic about this.
Right, we're really eager to talk to them, and them not so much. Yeah. So them being people in the afterlife.
Yeah, much less enthusiasm among the deceased. Because apparently they have things to do.
Yeah. I mean, they're busy.
Yes.
They've got stuff going on.
There's apparently things to do in the afterlife, which I guess is a pretty positive thing to look forward to.
For myself, definitely. I enjoy keeping active, socializing, doing all kinds of things. I guess if you were hoping for a break, for an opportunity to relax, maybe then it's a bit off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, they just seem to be less eager to have conversations.
Yeah, to talk on the phone.
Yeah, exactly, to talk on the phone, yeah. So it's just, right now it's not a good time. They even are rude occasionally, I understood it.
I mean, it depends how often you try and call them.
Yes, okay, fair enough. I guess also if you're a celebrity, you've been living your quiet celebrity life for centuries, and suddenly, you get a call, and then many calls.
Yeah, and it's one thing to get a call from someone you knew. It's different when they're people who were born decades or even 100 years after you yourself have died.
Yeah. So I don't know you, but how was it conquering France or something like that?
Well, and that's another point, actually. So I'm mentioning people who've died relatively recently. Okay, they have the concept of phones and, more to the point, phone numbers.
Oh, yeah.
As people who conquered France centuries ago, they don't really know about that kind of stuff.
Yes, maybe they just don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, like they see the younger spirits, I guess, using these payphones of some kind. I'm speculating a lot now, yeah? That's the point we'll talk about in a sec. We don't really know what their infrastructure's like. We just know that we can talk with them. So, but I'm assuming, you need some way of, like, a phone number or something.
But I like it. The younger experience is just bringing the older ones up to date.
Yeah.
This is a phone. This is a lens. This is 66G. But whenever there's new technology coming up, they need to wait for more people to die so they can can learn about it. Interesting. But
right, they're trailing. They're on the trailing edge.
Yeah, exactly. So and then usually the new people they get are usually the old people. So. Oh, come on. I haven't followed any technology over the last couple of decades. Yeah, okay. Wait some more. But we have learned a few things about the afterlife through these conversations. I mean, not you and me, but just people in general. It's very fragmented, and it's all a little bit of interpretation, extrapolation, because they are not very eager.
Yeah, they don't want to spoil us.
Yes. They don't want to give us spoilers. They're not really eager telling us about how things are handled in the afterlife. So it's just, you hear something in the background, or they slip up a little bit, or they say, oh, hold on, I have to check on the toaster.
Yeah, and it's like, why do you need to check on a toaster? Yeah, like, do you not just put bread in, start it going, and then you've got toast? But I mean, it turns out they do have toasters, because they mention often that they are malfunctioning in some way.
Yes, exactly. So that's at least one thing that we know about the afterlife. Yes, and it's the malfunctioning. That's also a thing, right? They have. Yeah,
I mean that's the thing for us too. Yeah, you often only will talk about like something when there's an issue with it. You won't comment on things smoothly. But it does seem maybe more prevalent amongst folk from the afterlife that they'll comment on their toaster, they're having to watch it, for example, or their smartphones, batteries,
things not working,
emptying. And they even have smartphones. That's how old these spirits are, But exactly that the smartphone battery will run out by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something.
You see, what I think is not just in the afterlife is just not, deceased people, but also deceased tech. I think they all get the stuff that breaks in wartime.
So like the toaster that's unreliable, or the smartphone that battery doesn't last half a day.
You do away with your toaster, you get a new one.
Yeah.
So what happens to your old toaster? I don't know. Apparently, goes to the afterlife.
At least some of them.
Yeah, on the one hand, it's positive. It gets recycled.
Right. It doesn't just become a landfill.
Yeah, exactly. On the other hand, I did away with it because it was crap. Okay, but I like that.
So that much we know about the afterlife.
That's about it. Yeah. That's about it about the afterlife.
Yeah, it's like we said at the start. It's a nice side effect of 66G.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, yeah. So to not use anywhere near as much electricity, to use as much resources that needed to be used in the past for the simulated versions. Now you can just speak directly to the people.
I was thinking, if I had a question about your afterlife, now theoretically there would be an opportunity to ask them, and I couldn't come up with something.
And nothing came to mind?
I mean, there's a bunch of things that I'm interested in, but I also don't want to spoil things for myself.
I see. So sure, you could ask, but you actually want to find out.
Exactly. It's kind of like reading a book. I don't want to flip to the last page to see how the story ends. I want to see how it unfolds. So, yeah, I'm happy to wait. Okay.
Okay.
Conversations with the Afterlife, check. But that's not everything.
No,
we have a listener question.
Exactly. An email here. Let me read it out. So, from Chen. So, Chen Bao writes, "Hello from Beijing. I like your podcast and your jokes make me laugh. A friend told me this joke and I think you might like it. 2 robots are having an argument." Sorry, I'm going straight into the joke here.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm ready to laugh.
you're ready, yeah? 2 robots are having an argument. Robot 1 says, "How come you never finish your sentences?" Robot 2 says, "I don't know what you're..." That's it.
Yeah.
Good joke.
It's a pretty good 21st century joke.
I reckon so.
Yeah.
It didn't make me laugh, but I heard it made you laugh.
Yeah.
So that's
Snigger.
nice. Yeah, Snigger. Nicely done, Chen Bao. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this nicely fits with or the theme of our podcast in general, because there's robots. The future.
Right. Yeah, without the robots, it could have just been 2 people, but robots makes it futuristic.
Yeah.
So, folk in the past who want to send us such fine jokes as that, or also maybe ask us more about communing with the afterlife, please send an email to michaellasagna5@gmail.com. Put the number 188 in the subject line so that we know this episode of our show successfully went back in time. Would really appreciate that.
Yes, most definitely. All right. Then thanks for listening and see you in 200 years.
Bye-bye.